Okay, it's a little after 4, so I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody to the third negotiations meeting. As usual, thank you for coming. I want to thank Deb for helping prepare all the materials and get us ready for this afternoon's meeting. Thank you to Patrick and the tech folks for making sure everything works. So again, this is the third meeting. I'll go around the room here and identify who's here. Angela Hansen from Pioneer Ridge is here. Leslie Ron from the high school is here. Mandy Taylor from Trail Ridge is here. Bev Furlong from Sunflower is here. Robbie Smith from Nike is here. Tony Taylor from the high school is here. Denise Rousselot from Trail Ridge is here. Bruce Haber from Nike is here. Tom Redden, board president, is here. Of course, Deb Starling. Heath Freeman from the Board of Education is here. Amy D. from the district office is here. Brian Huff, superintendent, just came in. He's here. And then we have observing Linda Seek from KNEA, Carrie Owing from Sunflower, Ty Remy from Trail Ridge, and Marsha McGuire from Trail Ridge. I'm guessing we might have a few more folks join us here in a bit, but let's go ahead and get started. I think we left the last meeting with the idea that GNEA would present their proposal or proposals as kind of the next step in the process. So unless anybody has any kind of general questions or comments or input, we'll probably turn it over to you guys.
Okay, as I make a lot of noise. All right, so we wanted to start off our proposal as a two-parter, so I'm going to start, then Leslie will take over. As far as the terms of the word meeting in there, we're going to address that later on in our proposal. We wanted to talk about extra duty pay, which we want if an attendee for an IEP meeting results in the certified staff member's plan time dropping below 225 minutes for middle and high school or 270 minutes elementary per 5-day week, they can submit for extra duty timesheet. That's kind of how we've been doing it now. We would just like that in the agreement. As far as committee work, we want all paid committee work to be negotiated. We're not sure how the committees were chosen that are receiving compensation, but we would like to have all of that negotiated. Short absences, fold-in of classes. We would like half of the daily rate of subpay when the teachers have to fold in a class for half the day. We have an example of a second grade class folding in 24 students into a class of 24 already. That's 48 students that the teacher has to plan for and keep under control. So the daily sub rate should be paid for that, not the $59. A full daily rate of sub pay when a teacher has to fold in for the full day. Flex days. We'd like to change the wording to self-scheduled work days and change the 2 to 2.5 self-scheduled work days. These days will be at the end of first full day of first quarter. A second quarter is a half day, and third quarter a full day. Similar to what we have, but instead of specific dates, have general dates for the end of quarters.
Okay. Again. There we go. Okay, so I'll do the 6, 7, and 8 on here. Number 6 on our list is to have all leave coded as PTO, paid time off. And then number 7 is addressing one of your proposals, I think, from the first meeting. And I think that your proposal was to eliminate the printing of the fourth quarter elementary grade cards. We believe that it's necessary to print the first quarter grade cards for conferences, but that all other quarters, second through fourth quarter, do not need to be printed. So just a correction and a counter proposal that we don't need to print second, third, and fourth quarter grade cards at the elementary level. And then number 8 on our list is for paid unused sick leave. It's just in that section. We would like to change the current number of days of 45 to 20 days for paid unused sick leave. So we very instinctively separated like our main compensation from all of the rest of this. So the next thing that I have, number 8, is compensation and salary schedule. Just a second. But we thought before we do that, because that's all we'll look at then, are there questions? Is there rationale, explanation, detail that you would like on those first 8 items?
Yeah, the answer's gonna be yes. but
Great.
You've thrown a lot at us.
Yes, we have.
Let us, maybe give us a couple minutes to go through this. And if folks have immediate questions, certainly let us know. But I can go back to what they presented, consult the current agreement, and try to understand it all. If anybody else has a question, feel free.
On the coded absences, you're suggesting we move it all to PTO as opposed to PTO and discretionary? Is that, or PTO and sick days? Is that what you're suggesting?
Discretionary and sick,
Yes, discretionary and sick.
changing it to just PTO.
Just PTO.
Okay, I'm gonna, refer to kind of in order here, but that's probably gonna be difficult for all of us to stay on the same sequence. The elementary grade card. The change was to stop mailing them, not printing them.
So we don't need to mail them, we don't need to print them. The only time that they need to be printed is for first quarter because they use those at parent-teacher conferences. So once again, our thought process is that you're saving paper because everything is electronic. Nothing needs to be mailed. The only time we need to print is just for first quarter because then every other time the parents can actually just go to Power School and find out the grades that they have. And we just have to educate our parents on how to do that. So that's what we're trying to say, just to save some money. There's no reason to print them at just for first quarter, and then no mailing and no printing after that.
The other reason we added the second and third quarter was to help parents get in the habit of, at grade quarter time, we're looking online for grades. We were afraid if we just did it one time of year, that would get missed. Parents wouldn't be in the habit of doing that. So we were trying to help them get in a habit of accessing that way.
That's not articulated in the agreement, the printing, guys. I think I understand what you're saying. Do you want to memorialize that in the negotiated agreement that will print the first quarter? And then we can add the additional language that they will not be printed and they will not be mailed, but the current language just speaks to the mailing. So if we want to put in there printing, I don't have any opposition to that, but are we currently saying you have to print or don't print? Is that currently a practice?
Because our understanding was that you had just wanted everything to be on Power School for that fourth quarter and not mail those home.
Sure.
And right now, we print every quarter, we print and mail on the fourth quarter. And so in order to get parents prepared and understanding what it's going to look like, they need time to have someone there supporting that.
Okay.
If the goal was to not mail them home, our understanding was it was just, if you don't mail it, you're also not printing it.
For
I think
sure.
that is just a practice for elementary because I know middle school and high school do not do either of any of those things. So
And part of the reason the printing is involved is or having them printed first quarter only and not the rest is because if we didn't mail them home, we would have to actually have them completed before teachers had a work time to do it. So that's why they would need to be not printed, because we can't send them home in their backpacks on that last day if it's before the teacher's work time.
Okay, so the proposal is to change the language to they'll be printed to the first quarter, but not quarters 2, 3, and
Correct.
4.
Correct.
And
Yep.
not printed.
Yep.
Yes, or mailed.
Or mailed.
Okay. I'm looking at Bruce Haber Elementary. That's, you don't have any objections really.
Nope.
It may not be, maybe a little bit of overkill here, but you don't have any objections.
No.
Okay. Then I think we can agree to that. I will speak for myself. Obviously, we'll have to go back and huddle up a little bit. I don't have any questions about your IEP meetings, your extra duty requests for meetings. I don't have any questions for that right now. We have talked about it. Your proposal is akin to some of the ideas we've already kicked around, so I don't have any questions. I think I understand they asked for 2. Does anybody else? Committee work, we're going to have to talk about that, guys. The reason this came up was there was a good faith effort by the district office to pay people, staff members that were on board approved committees. And the option was given, I think, also for salary movement for certified staff. It was truly not any effort to skip over the negotiated agreement, to fail to negotiate this. It was a good faith effort to maybe further motivate people to participate in those activities outside their duty days. So I think we'd all agree that it was a well-meaning gesture. Doesn't mean we want to pay everybody for every committee. I don't think, so we'll have to talk about that.
I just to clarify, I don't necessarily think that we're asking that every committee be paid. We're asking that all paid committee work be negotiated. Okay. So just because, to clarify some of that, we have a list, and I think it's on the board website, of the committees that are currently being paid. But I guess what our question is, and questions that we've received from members, is what committees are being paid versus what committees are not being paid. You know, how is the selection process for people who are on committees working? There are people who have served on committees for multiple years who, like you said, you're trying to increase enrollment in these and participation in these. And so people that have served on these committees for a long time haven't necessarily been paid for committee work. So it's not that all committee work be paid. It's that any paid committee work be negotiated. That's the ask.
So do you guys have like a rate sheet or pricing or requested amount? And I want to make sure I'm clear. This is official board approved committees.
And what are you wanting to negotiate? Just the pay, or who's part of it, or?
Yeah, and those.
Okay, so here's the crux of the deal. So we're not saying that it wasn't a good faith effort. We appreciate that component of it. It's just that when we got questions, the questions that were asked was, well, I didn't know we could get paid. When did that happen? I didn't know we could move across the salary schedule. When did that happen? And I said, I don't know. So all we want to do is to put it in our language so that people understand that these are your options. So for example, if I roll off the wellness committee, that the next person on it knows that that's a paid committee that you could actually be a part of. So we're just wanting to be able to communicate that you can either be paid or that you can actually either move across the pay schedule on it. So we just need that in the agreement so that when people roll off of that committee, that they know that these other people that are coming on, that they have that latitude to do the same. That's what we're looking for.
So Leslie said negotiate committee work. So you want to negotiate the rate of pay.
Well, right now the rate of pay is extra duty pay.
Yeah.
So once again, we're not having a problem with what the rate of pay is. We just need to make sure that people understand that they can turn that in for that rate of pay. So it needs to be on there that these board
So
committees.
we're really not negotiating the rate of pay. It's extra duty. Right. So you guys are comfortable with the extra duty. That's I
Yes.
misunderstood what Leslie was saying then. She said you don't want to negotiate all committee work. You want to negotiate the paid committee work. You want to negotiate the rate of pay, but you're saying you do want to negotiate you want to identify committees and then
Yes. So if you
articulate that you'll get extra
decide to
duty.
have a committee that
Okay,
says
that's cleaner for me.
high school, the brand new high school. We're
Calendar
not having a
committee.
brand new high school, but I'm
Calendar
just saying,
committee.
if you're going to have that on there, then we want you to bring that to the table that says, hey, we'd like to add this board committee onto our negotiated agreement as it's going to be a paid committee, or you can move across the salary schedule.
Okay, I got it. You guys,
Right.
everybody got it?
It's just that
That's not what they're asking, Brian. They're asking for calendar committee. I don't know, what's another example of a committee that we've had for years and
I have all of them. Health and
Yes.
wellness, policy, special
fine.
education, technology.
health committee is not an official board
facility.
committee. So
It's listed as one of the paid committees. So we wrote them down: community outreach, educational services advisory,
Yep.
facility and construction, finance, health and wellness, policy review, special education, and technology.
We understand the
Yeah.
ask, guys. I think we need to go back and talk because there are, like, the benefits committee is not an official board committee, but it's been around for years and it helps us select the health plan. Calendar committee is another great example where I think it's been pretty common knowledge folks that participate on that aren't getting paid. And we understand the confusion and we understand the ask.
I think it would just be a lot like supplementals, like any kind of new supplemental comes through negotiations. So like if there's a committee that's going to get paid, it would come through just like supplementals would come through. And we're not changing the rate of pay. We're just changing how we get acknowledgement of those committees coming through.
We understand the ask. I think we'll need to talk behind closed doors whether we want to do this at all. Okay? And that would clear up the confusion, but understand your request. Number 4, short absences. I think I understand the ask. I think we need to go back and decide if it's not appropriate, if that's something we can live with. Your example of one class getting 24 students, I assume that's pretty much an outlier, and that's pretty rare. So I need to talk to building principals and understand, do we want to make this adjustment based on one, kind of outlier, or are we comfortable with the way we have it set up now? And I'm not sure we just need to talk about that. Does anybody have questions about number 4?
I think that, so we have other examples that kind of go along with this. I don't understand how this thing works. Sometimes I can get it to work and sometimes I can't. So for example, that was an elementary example. We have a middle school example where there was a teacher who had a sub lined up. That sub ended up getting pulled for another teacher who was out that day. So the original teacher no longer had the sub, and those students were folded into, was it PE? I think was PE for the day. And so, I think one of the compensation is part of this, but I think the other part of this is that those 48 second graders, there wasn't learning happening that day. Whatever the original plan was for that teacher, that did not happen for their 24 students or for the other 24 students. The counter example of this is back to the pay. It's a me example. So I was observing a teacher down the hall from me for my other hat that I wear, and I put in for a sub to cover my class. It was 11 juniors and seniors who were taking a test in physics. And that sub received essentially the same pay for watching my 11 students take a test as that second grade teacher got for keeping 48 second graders engaged and active in learning for that entire day. So while these may be one-offs, those 48 those 48 second graders, that's a lot of loss of learning. And that's a lot of stress on that teacher. And these are just 3 examples that, there's other examples that exist. I just think that the point of it should be that folding in should not be well, thank goodness we can fold these kids in. We should be compensating teachers for the work that they're doing, and watching juniors and seniors take a test and keeping 48 second graders engaged for an entire 8 hours, there should be a little bit of a different amount of pay for that. So we just wanted to make that more equitable.
I think also just to add, just so everybody has a clear picture, a lot of times in each one of the buildings, they have to be creative because we don't have subs. So we're pulling teachers to take from their planning time to come and cover someone else's class. And they're being paid to cover those classes as well. But I can give you an example that currently right now, we don't have 5 subs for Friday. I don't know if we're going to get 5 subs, but that means I've got to have a pool of teachers here that are going to cover 5 classes for 8 hours. So I just don't know where that pool comes from. And so part of it has to do is that we don't have sub coverage. Some of it times happens is that that person doesn't find out. For example, I had a teacher the other day that her brother had a massive heart attack. She had to leave. We didn't have coverage. I understand why we don't have the coverage. We're just trying to help our teachers be compensated when they're stepping up to help us out. And in the spring, you all know how much they step up to help us out just because we can't get enough subs. And it's just not a one building thing. It's across the district kind of thing.
I think another example, just a quick straw poll in my building just to see what interest was. Folding in was considered more difficult than giving up your plan time to go cover a class and get paid that plan time pay. Having to make those flexible decisions all through the day and, oh, I thought I had this plan, but now I have 8 extra kids in here. So the actual fold in is considered a higher maintenance responsibility than giving up a planned time and getting compensated that way. So that was another thing, was trying to honor what people felt the workload was for those fold-in experiences.
Okay, first of all, whoever had those 48 kids, God bless you, okay? I think we'd all agree that's not even close to ideal, and we need to avoid that. And that's building principles and teams. We need to avoid that at all costs. And I think this group needs to take a little credit. We didn't have folding in a few years ago. I mean, we've routinely tried to address this and make sure we are being fair and providing compensation for folks that go above and beyond. So I think that every year we kind of tweak it and try to get it better. I have to say my baseline expectation is we avoid those kinds of examples. That is not fair to the teacher, and the kids aren't learning. So, Leslie, that's my challenge to building leadership, is to avoid that in the first place. And it's important for this group, anybody that's watching, to understand as a leadership team, we are examining how we can avoid these situations. Oftentimes we're our own worst enemy. The group that's having the most influence on teacher and student attendance is us, and we need to work on it collectively. So you can trust that. I think we understand the asks. Does anybody else have questions?
I guess I just have a clarifying question, reading the stuff in the parentheses. So are you just asking for full day rate for if they take the whole class? So for instance, like your 24-24 one, that's a full day rate. But if Robbie's gone and we split her kids amongst 3 classes, you're asking for a full day for each of those 3 too, or you just?
Yeah. No.
I interpreted it as you were just wanting to raise the compensation, and it's irrespective of how many total kids you get.
Right. And I think that we recognize that there are instances in which you might take that 24 students and divide them up between 2 teachers. So we're open for discussion on how we address that pay, that rate of pay at this time. So that's why we didn't specify necessarily for like dividing up a class. I think, like you said, there's a lot to this, and we've tried to address this. That's why we just wanted to start the conversation. So yes, yeah.
Any other questions on short absences folding in? Okay, number 5, questions. As you'd expect, I have some questions. I think when you guys introduced this issue and you wanted to talk about relabeling, you wanted to provide clarity. I don't see clarity here, guys. I see probably additional confusion. Self-scheduled suggests that I can schedule at my discretion, and I don't think that's what you mean. So I'm struggling from kind of the jump here on what benefit this would make. We've already told you we'll add the 2.5 or the extra half, and we already have those days identified, and calendar committee does a good job with that every year. So I'm sometimes slow on the uptake, so the rest of the group might understand what you're driving at here. I don't see it though.
I think that confusion we were trying to clear up is Flex PD. You have to do that, or you have to take time. Like, you have to put in those hours one way or another. Like, in that moment, or you have to take paid leave. The work time, you can flex it and not, you don't have to put in for an absence for that day, if that makes sense, as long as you have all of your stuff done. So we were trying to clarify the difference between flex PD and work days that are flexed. And we were trying to not use the word flex for both of them. We looked up some examples. Self-scheduled work days came up. Don't really care what the name is, just trying to designate flex PD, which has some consequences of you have to take leave if you don't get those 12 hours in, compared to your flex work days, which you just have to get your work done and then you get that work day off.
Okay, I do understand what you're saying, but I also feel like I'll stick up for Dr. Jones in particular. He advertised this, explained this ad nauseum for the Flex PD days, and I think folks have generally got the drill down. And again, I don't think this group is opposed to listing specific dates every year, because we go in and we change the negotiated agreement, and there's nothing more specific than a specific date for 26, 27. So we can talk about it though.
Sure.
I will say the flex days, they were in there before Dr. Jones. Like, those flex work days were already in there. This has nothing to do with all the wonderful work he did.
With the Flex PD, so
Just with the name, and then people trying to understand,
Okay.
like, what days do I have to put in for? What days do I not have to put in for?
okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, all leave coded as PTO. The benefits to that, can you guys maybe expand a little bit? What are the benefits there, in your opinion, for your members?
So here's the examples, one of the examples, so tell me if I'm wrong, guys. So I get 11 discretionary days, right? So I'm a planner. So I plan out my 11 discretionary days, and I start and I have them all planned out, and they're all used up by, let's say January. Well, then I find out that my child has a field trip that I want to go to, right? But I don't have any more discretionary days because I've already used them all. So technically, you're asking me to put in for a sick day when I'm really not sick, because you have to use all your discretionary days first. So we're just trying to put it where people can actually pick the dates and just use it as PTO, so that they don't feel compelled to say, oh my gosh, I can't, if I put it in as sick, I'm really not sick because I'm really just going on my child's field trip. So we've had issues with that where people have reached out to us and said, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, then I guess you're going to put in for a sick day. Well, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Well, okay, then I guess you're not going on the field trip. So we're just trying to give some latitude, because there are some people that plan that far out in advance. And then we had another lady, I believe, that was going to have surgery, and literally had to put it as discretionary leave, but she was actually having surgery, which really would be considered sick leave, but you had to use your discretionary days first before she could actually use her sick leave. So, am I right on that story? Okay. So, it's just the fact of just making it an easier, streamlined thing, because here's what I know. I got people out there watching this, and here's the thing. It really doesn't happen. It doesn't really worry about it until it happens to me. A lot of times I'm it's going to just flow on out of there. But then when it happens, that's when we get the questions, because people don't know what they're supposed to do. So we're just trying to streamline the process to make it a little bit clearer for everyone when they're actually trying to submit for those days.
I think the people that we're trying to respond to too are those who, my child had the flu, they were out for 5 days. And then my other child had the flu, they were out for 3 days. Now I'm down to 2 or 3 discretionary days, and I have field trips at the end of the year. It's more that mix of, I had to take some sick, I had to take some discretionary, but I'd like to use discretionary for the end of the year.
What if we, so typically the discretionary, that is this year's days. What if we changed it to current year days and previous year's days? So, do you know what I mean? That way we're still separating the two. So we can look at Because I know we do that for data purposes, how many days are being used during the school year, you know.
Talk behind closed doors, guys.
Okay.
Those of us that have been here long enough know when we went to discretionary days, and I'll just be honest, it's not unlike certified staff or admin. There is supposed to be a little bit of a throttle on vacation or discretionary days, and then once you've used those, you really shouldn't be gone unless you're sick. So I'm just being candid. That's the logic. So it drives up attendance and drives down absenteeism, and that's not particularly sensitive, guys. I get it. But we also have demonstrated over the years we're very supportive if someone has a genuine hardship. So there is a method for why paid time off is set up that way, not just for teachers, but classified employees and administrators. And Angela said it well. It comes down to planning. And I know when you're a parent with young kids, and a lot of us have been there, the planning goes out the door. So we understand that. So we understand the ask. We'll go back and talk and see if we can come back with some kind of response or a compromise.
Ready for compensation? Oh. Oh, that one.
You just want to reduce the 45 to 20 so it
Yep.
allows more people to access that particular benefit, right?
I think the other piece is to have our people be in the building more too, because there's a benefit for them being there. So those people close to retirement that are like, I'm under 45, so I'm just going to start taking
There's
time.
some
We're
logic to
trying
that. I get it. Yep. Okay. Anybody have any other questions about this initial set of proposals? Okay.
I won't start talking yet. I'll let Robbie hand it out first, and then we'll share. Is the master's column 6? Is that what it is? The master's column 6. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so just so everybody who's watching knows what we're asking. So we're on our compensation. This is our salary schedule. First offer, first ask, I guess. So historically, we've added money to the base, and then that has just sort of filtered through the rest of the columns. So in Amy's presentation last time we met, we made some inroads last negotiating season, and we made a little bit of increase in we're not at the bottom of the pack anymore in terms of comparable districts. So we are asking for I believe it's the first 5 columns, all of the bachelor's columns, we're asking for a $1,500 increase and step increase on those columns. Where we do see some discrepancy is when we start to get into the master's columns and beyond. So master's plus 10, the doctorate, all those columns. So what we're asking for is, I believe that this is starting in column 6, that we would add, yes? Correct. Yes. That we would add $1,800 and a step to those columns. This becomes particularly noticeable, not necessarily in the master's column, so in column 6, but our discrepancy between us and other districts becomes very noticeable when you start to get into the master's plus, and different districts have different numbers. So the master's plus 30 or master's plus 36 or master's plus 20. And we're trying to address a couple of things that the board has identified, the staff retention and recruitment, but we're also trying to address the incentive for teachers to get these higher degrees, to become the highly qualified teachers that we want to have here in the district, and have it be a little bit more competitive for those additional columns. So we would like to add a little bit more to those columns to try to work toward bringing us up from the bottom when we compare to other districts. So we're asking for that. So that's the $1,500 for the first 5, and then the $1,800 for the remaining. The part that's in is it in blue? Yeah, the part that's in blue. We were just noticing while we were putting our offers together and our topics together, on the salary schedule, on the little grid that we provide in the negotiated agreement, it does correctly identify that if you're frozen, so if you've gone beyond the 30 steps or however many steps, if you've gone beyond that, it does correctly identify $500 per year frozen for a bachelor's degree and $1,050 per year in the master's. It does not say that in the negotiated agreement. So it still has the old language where that was a $600 increase. And this is just a clarification to make sure that the wording matches what we agreed to last year. Somehow we missed it. So does it? The one that's on the share drive does not.
Okay,
So-
we'll have to look into that.
Yeah. And then the other two things that are on this are supplementals. So we are kind of circling back to competitive cheer. I believe that we've collected some data this year for these 3 coaches for the cheer team. And so again, we are proposing that we move these the coaches of cheer to have essentially a second season, a competitive cheer season, and add that competitive cheer supplemental to group 6. And then the second supplemental on here is a response to the BOE offer from our first meeting. Your proposal was to move the pit director for the musicals at the high school from group 6 to group 4. And our proposal is that we keep the pit director at group 6, but we add a second supplemental so that essentially in what we have understood, this was a process to understand this. Historically, there was one show in the fall. That one received, that's how this was written, so that pit director received the group 6 supplemental. In the last 5 to however many years, we've added a second show of equal time and work requirements for the pit director. And so we are proposing that we add a second group 6 supplemental for whoever is the pit director of that second show.
Okay, we all clear?
On the competitive cheer,
Sure.
oh, it's still on, sorry. On the competitive cheer, you said one season on, like, one ends and one begins. So what would that look like time-wise?
I don't know that I have the dates in front of me. Do you know the dates?
That part, I don't have the dates in front of me, but this was something that you all agreed upon last year about to look at competitive cheer, and that they were supposed to be logging it and putting it down for extra duty. So they did that, and so that's why we brought it back to the table, because after that year that you asked for the data, you said that we could make the proposal, so that's what we're doing. So as in the time frame, I just know it's additional time, but I have not seen their spreadsheet yet. I'd be happy to give you the spreadsheet, but I'm sure Amy would have that information
So let
because
me-
of the extra duty pay. Okay.
Yeah, so we wouldn't know until probably the summertime, and so this ask is for 3 of the same supplemental. There's not like a head coach and assistant coaches. This is 3 competitive cheer coaches, all at group 6.
So when I actually asked Mr. Yockey about that last year, I said, I'm assuming you're the head and these 2 are your,
Yeah, I
underneath
understand.
assistant coaches. And he said, I think it's only fair that they all get that we all get the same amount of pay. So that's why we just said all 3 coaches.
Okay.
So that's what we asked for.
Yeah, we do have some of the data. I think it's going to be probably an incomplete data set, but let us go back and talk,
Okay.
because John has made a good faith effort to try to capture that. Okay, well, I think that we're going to need probably 30 minutes to at least start chewing on these things and see if we can give you some responses. So I don't know if it's easier for you guys to move or us. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'll start with the most important question. How was the pie?
It was so good.
All right, we got a couple folks out making their way back in. Let's give them a minute or two, and then we'll start back up.
I know, I am shivering. It's so cold.
Okay, let's jump into this. We are prepared to give you some feedback on your initial, I guess, 8 items. One, I think we all agree we can address by responding to number 2. 2, we've got tentative agreement. We do not have exact language, but the important distinctions we'll want to make are it excludes special ed certified professionals, because we feel like it is part of their duty to be at IEP meetings. It will be only the time, and I know people are probably like, Jody, this goes without saying, it's only the time they're in attendance in the meeting, and they shouldn't be submitting, I don't know that this will be in the language, but the timesheet shouldn't be submitted until the end of the work week, and it's only for a 5 full day work week. So those will be the important components that we're going to build into this. And I don't have it all laid out right now this evening, but those will be the points of emphasis. Questions? Okay. Committee work, we're willing to agree to Board of Education approved official committees, only extra duty. Again, I don't have this all written out, guys, but those are the important components. Yes. And calendar committee, benefits committee, these are the board identified official, I've already said it, Board of Education committees. Right. So, yeah, calendar committee would not be included. Again, and we would list them. We would list them in negotiated agreement.
The Board of Education committees are officially designated by the board once a year also.
Yes.
So that'll be an officially voted upon and designated committee. And they're rarely added to or subtracted from.
No other questions about that one? All right, short absences fold in. We're going to respectfully decline your ask. We are comfortable with what's in place now. We appreciate the issues that you brought to our attention, and we would like the opportunity to work with building administration to address those examples and try to prevent them from happening in the future, and to just kind of research and examine this issue a little bit more deeply over the course of next year, and then maybe reconsider at that point. Flex Day. Again, I don't have the exact language laid out here, but we're willing to identify them as flex PD days and flex work days to try to minimize the confusion. I'm not exactly sure how we'll spell that out in the negotiated agreement or the calendar, but just to help folks understand the distinction, we're willing to add that specific language where it needs to be added. All leave coded as PTO. The board respectfully declines this request, as I think we've done in years past. We feel like the paid time opportunities currently in place with the discretionary leave and the ability to then use bank leave is appropriate, and we stand by our response to any staff member that's experiencing a true hardship. We've been able to, I think, find a path forward for them, so we'd prefer to leave it the way it is. Elementary grade cards, I think we've already clarified the wording there. Pay for unleave sick leave as it relates to retirement. That's what you're asking about, right? We're willing to drop 45 to 30 days. Questions? Board committee, you guys jump in if I've missed anything or if you want to elaborate on any of the logic. No other questions? Jeannie A? Okay, we have a comp response if you're ready. Okay, Amy will hand that out and let her take the mic.
Let those get around. Mr. Freeman, passing out the papers today.
Thank you.
Hot off the presses. Okay, so on the top of this, you will see our anticipated new resources. I did try to call that out for everyone. Unfortunately, we are not expecting any increase in state aid next year, despite the base amount or the base aid per pupil going up. We have dropped enough in our FTEs and in our weightings that we do not anticipate that there will be any new state aid, which is quite a change from previous years. But these are unfortunately the drawbacks of having a declining enrollment. We are also banking on that $1 million of planned attrition. Right now we're at $775,000. We still have a few more things going in the hopper that we do really believe that we will get to that $1 million. So we are throwing that out as a good faith effort, that we will use that toward increases. And then we've also identified that $396,000 in non-payroll savings. Those would be our operating costs, but that decreases to department building, other, budgets, things that we've stopped doing, where we talked about last time, like the SROs and the co-responder, those types of things, that we are going to use those monies towards salary instead. So that leaves us with a pot of money of just under $1.4 million to do everything that we are hoping to do this year, which leads us to our offer is $250 on the base plus a step. This equates to 1.46% for returning staff. And you can see the other dollars that are in there that we're having to take into consideration. This can, $588,000 of it will go to base salaries for returning staff, $28,000 to increasing supplementals. We also budget salary movement. We were able to tick that down a little bit this year. We had budgeted 110 and we ended up at about 92,000 this year. The taxes on that we are responsible for, so we had to include that. And then our benefits increase that we're expecting. This is for about 475 employees that's about the number of certified staff that participate. And this is increasing it by 12% for the 2027 calendar year. And this is just the part of the fiscal year that would be in 2027, this $332,000, which leads us to about $1.1 million of that 1.4 going towards certified increases, or 80% of that bucket of money. So I will stand for questions. And just as a reminder, last year, that bucket of money was just over $2.2 million, and the prior year it was about $4 million. So just that declining enrollment is really where that is coming back to make sure that we have to be better stewards of exactly what we have without decreasing the services that we're providing to our students, without decreasing the supports that you have in your buildings. That's kind of where we're at.
You guys have any questions about any of the responses in the offer? I did too. Sorry, I was looking at my list. Competitive cheer, we don't have the data in front of us, guys. We're going to have to table that one. Sorry. The pit director one.
So I will tell you that we did run some numbers, and I do have some data, and I'm happy to share it with you guys, of the timesheets that had been turned in the last 2 years of how many hours this took for the second time around. For the person that did do the second musical, it was the same person holding the supplemental that time. This year it's not, which is I think kind of turned into part of the issue, is that we have someone else who's getting nothing for doing the first one, so there's no carryover into the second one. The number of hours that were turned in were under 70 for each of them, which does not even come close. If you doubled that, doesn't even come close to the group 6 that it's at now. But I think that our proposal still stands, that we would move it to a group 4. It should include the 2 shows, and should that individual that is holding it now want to split it, then we could do like we do with other supplementals and make them a 0.5 FTE for each of them.
It's very dramatic for me just to say I think we need to caucus for about 15 minutes.
Sounds good. So we'll regroup at about 10 till. Okay, I think we're back. Turn it over to G&EA if you guys want to respond or add some
Yep.
comments.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so we'll go down the list again. So number one and number two are kind of the same. We're gonna wait to see language on number two before we make any additional comments on number two for the extra duty pay. For number three was committee work. Part of the reason that we brought this up was in the negotiated agreement, there is a section in the negotiated agreement that reads, in part, the Board of Education reserves the right to add additional positions when necessary. This is for hourly extra duty rates. It says GENEA will be notified when new positions are added. We were not notified when these positions were added. We were notified when the entire district was notified. I don't know that, I think that, so in our view, good faith effort is being made to get staff participating in important committee work that makes decisions and feeds, the board decisions that are made monthly, weekly. And we agree with this, but the process in which it happened makes it so that when our members, who we are the ones who our members come to, we are the ones who our bargaining unit comes to when questions like this arise. When we are asked questions and we don't know the answer to it, it makes it so that that things look like they're happening without our feedback or our participation in it. So then we get questions about, well, are you really a part of this conversation or not? And there was no animosity on our side or on any staff side about receiving compensation or salary movement for serving on committees. Our clarification was simply to make sure that when paid positions are added, that GENEA is a part of that conversation, just as it would be, just as it's stated in the negotiated agreement. So I don't know that it was intended to be this way, but it does feel a little bit, it feels a little bit punitive that there was originally this extra duty compensation and salary movement, and then we brought it up just to have clarification that that we be a part of this conversation, and now salary movement is being taken away. So right now we're at a position where we have now lost 4 members, right? Because we've taken away the option to have salary movement for committee work. So that's number 3. And again, I don't have a further comment on that other than I just wanted to explain why we brought it up. That it wasn't because there was any disagreement on our side or on our members' side that maybe we should be compensated for things like this. It was just that process be transparent.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yep.
When you say things being added, can you give an example of what has been added? Just so I'm not connecting the dots of what committee or what type of thing was added.
So here's what, there have been members on your committees that have done this for years, correct? And the committees that we listed to you, some of those people had no idea that they could ask for payment or get salary movement on it. We had no idea until we saw it in December when Ben Booth put it on the notes, and I got people emailing me going, hey, Angela, when did this happen? So we're not trying to say that we agree with compensating people. That has nothing to do with what we're asking. What we're saying is that we were unaware of it, and so when people were asking us, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. So we just wanted to clarify to go along with the wording that's already in the agreement. And now you all understand that component, but now you're taking another piece away that you already told people that they could have. And so we're losing something when all we were trying to do is get clarification. That's it. So that moving forward, so like I said, if there was a new committee that the board wanted to establish, that you all would come to us and say, hey, GENEA, here's a new committee that we'd like to establish for this reason. Here are how people can be a part of it. Then we're aware of it, and we're like, okay, that's all we're asking for. That is it.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
I'm
that's
going to
fine.
jump in here. We've gone back and forth in emails, and you've presented your side, and we presented our side, guys. We understand what you're saying. We can't turn back time and go back and correct this. You've heard our counter proposal. We stand by that, and we think it's appropriate. And I understand what you're saying, guys. I can't promise you that 2 years down the road, some summer project will come up and we'll want to hire some certified people to do summer project. I can't promise you that something else won't come up that will go against what's in the negotiated agreement, but you make a valid point, and we will try our best to make sure it doesn't happen again.
All right, so number 4 is short absences fold in. District respectfully declined adjusting the rate of pay for folding in. So I guess my clarifying question is, if I'm a 3rd grade teacher and I am asked to fold in 10 students into my 3rd grade class, can I respectfully decline folding those 10 students in?
I think it says requested. You guys, we brought this up before, and it said administrator. I don't remember. I'll have to grab the negotiated agreement. But if memory serves, about 3 years ago, it said administrator could come and dictate or tell or whatever, or at least that's the way it read. And I'm pretty sure we changed the language to request, meaning that a teacher could decline the request. Does that sound familiar to any of the other members that have been doing this the last several years? So I feel like we've already crossed that bridge.
Okay.
But you guys can look at the language, and if you feel like, hey, it's too vague, or a teacher feels has to feel obligated, we want to work with you on that, because I do remember that coming up, and we wanted to make sure that a teacher could decline that. It's going to put the building in a pinch, though, but I feel like, I know for a fact we discussed this. If we didn't get the language to a point where you feel comfortable, then let us know that.
I don't think that the district should save money in situations like that. I think that if we are asking, so if you're a 3rd grade teacher or a 5th grade teacher or whatever it is, and you're being asked to fold in any number of students into your class, or if you're in what I'm hoping is not as frequent as it seems like maybe it has been, if you're asked to fold in an entire class, or if a PE teacher is asked to fold in students for the entire day, I'm hoping that these things aren't as common as they are. We'll work on getting some data for that. I think that those instances should be of last resort and should not be a place where the district is saving money. And right now, in those instances, I think the district is saving a little bit of money in those cases.
Yeah, I never said in any of my responses this was about saving money.
No, and I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying that it is that way. I mean, it seems that way, right? So that those, I'm going to go back to the elementary example. Those 24 students who were folded into another class, if we had paid a sub for that day, we would have paid them more money than that teacher got paid. And all 48 of those students would have learned something and would have had their relatively normal schedule for that day.
And that sub would have taken all the students. That was one of the principles behind folding in, is they would be divided across the 4 sections of students, 3rd grade sections at Madison. Edgerton, obviously, that's a challenge from time to time. So a sub would have taken all 22 kids, Leslie. So would have paid for the one sub, as opposed to the 22 kids being divided up over 3 teachers or 4 sections of the rest of the grade.
Right, but
So-
that's not what happened. That those 24
I know.
students were folded into one teacher.
Yeah, and that's
So, yeah.
that's an example where
Yeah.
everybody in the room, board team and a GNA team, that probably wasn't appropriate. And building administrators, if you're listening, let's try to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Number 5 was the flex day wording. So we'll wait to see what wording on that is. I think we'll welcome being a part of that conversation to try to clarify that wording. Number 6 is the all leave coding to PTO. I guess I just want, can you, the board team, restate or explain to us what you think that we're asking for coding leave as PTO? Before we come back and have more conversation about this, I just want to make sure that we all understand what we are asking for that.
I think you're asking, as a certified professional, you want all of your paid time off coded as paid time off. There's no distinction between discretionary, which all employees must exhaust first, regardless of the need for leave at the beginning of the year. You want your employees, if they have bank sick leave or discretionary leave, to use it for whatever reason they want to.
Okay. Number 7, we agreed to. Number 8. We're come back to that. And then number 9 is compensation.
I can provide a more definitive response to 9B supplementals. Competitive cheer, we just feel like we have an incomplete data set. We will work with John and identify the hours he's committing and where to slot it, and we will bring you a proposal next year. We're not probably going to identify it as a 3-person supplemental, so that'll be one of the things that we'll really work with John on and making sure we understand that. But our answer is no to that now, but we're committed to working with John, and at the end of this season, end of spring, really pulling together data sets so we understand where we would like to slot it. And PIT director, again, reasserting that we stand by our proposal.
Okay, well, with that, we need more time.
Sure.
And unfortunately, you're not going to like this. We are not going to be able to continue with this today. So there's a lot of things that we need to come back with. There's a lot of things that we need to discuss as a team. We presented a written document offer for our first proposal. So one of the things is that and we can get this from you later. We would like a written document back as well. So we would like to have something that we can work on and make notes on. So we are prepared to get our calendars out and talk about our next meeting date. Here's where it's going to get real bad. This is the time of the year where we cannot handle much else. So we as a team will be able to meet the week of May 25th to discuss, which, yes, as a team, but that means that we will not be available to meet here again until that first week of June.
I feel comfortable speaking for the board, guys. We understand.
Yeah.
Trust that we understand, and we are grateful for the thorough proposals you've provided and your position. So just understand that we'll consider all that, and then if we can't meet until June, we can't meet until June.
So what day in June? We're good that first week, June 1st through the 5th. But I know Fridays are not good, so June 1st through the 4th.
The 3rd.
Anytime during the day,
Yeah,
too.
Yes, we can
Morning,
do it
we
during
could
the
have
day.
breakfast. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So Wednesday the 3rd, we have finance committee, and then the next day we could do it late.
How about the 2nd? June 2nd?
Okay, I'm having major surgery on the 27th, so the further we can push it back in that week, the better. But if the 2nd is when you can meet, then. Okay,
So then we
2nd?
need to go to the next week.
Yes, let's go to the next week. Thank you. Tuesday or Wednesday? The 9th or 10th?
I'm in Branson.
Mandy's out that week.
I'm out that whole week.
Yep.
We're going on vacation.
Yep, next week.
Yeah, we're gonna take an actual vacation. I know. I'm excited.
Tuesday, June 16th.
I can do that.
I can do Tuesday, June 16th.
Tuesday, June 16th. Deb, is the room open?
And what time?
Well, I do want to be respectful of the board members, so if it's later in the day is better. Heath, 4 o'clock? Yeah, and we need everybody to participate that we can, so I would respectfully, ask for 4 o'clock, June 16th. And
Great.
we know we need to do this work in the committee meeting, guys, but when we send some of these things back and forth, can we at least chew on them a little bit, like the language stuff?
You mean you want it ahead of time?
Well, I'm gonna send you guys all the stuff that we're proposing now,
Okay.
and if you have questions, doesn't mean, we're not making any decisions offline, guys, but if you have questions.
You're asking if we would email you back to clarify some questions on the
Yes.
information that you shared. Yes, we
Okay, perfect. Between now and the middle of June. Okay, and of course, if you need more data or you need something else, let us know, and we'll get it. Again, we're grateful for your time and your thoughts and your input, and we wish you the very best with the rest of the school year, guys. Thank you.